All right. Good evening. Hope everyone's having a great night. I'm Eric. I'm the board gamer, and tonight we are back at Arkham Horror, the card game. It's been a little while since the last tragic story of Roland ended, unfortunately, in the last one horrifically, actually. So tonight I am starting with the next campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, and that is the Dunwich Legacy. And we're also trying out a new setup today that'll hopefully keep me from having to switch back and forth and put a lot more information on the screen. Oh, also, this time the mic, I believe, is working, which it wasn't last week. So I recorded a completely silent stream, which was hilarious to say the very least. Now with the setup, I've got the board here, the mat here, and the setup on this side. I've got close-up cam set up to display cards right above me. So I will be able to constantly put cards here without having to switch back and forth. So hopefully we'll be able to get a good read on exactly what's going on. I'm done trying new things with the overhead cam, but try to get it a little bit cleaner. I know the text is almost impossible still to read. So I'm going to be working on trying to get it a little bit lower for the next few times, giving maybe different mounts a try. Also, I've ordered some conversion kits for the webcams that I'm using so that they can be mounted with lenses, which will potentially help get a bit of a clearer picture. It was working really well when I had originally a webcam on a stick that I would raise and lower. And that the text was quite clear on that. Now with the camcorder, even though it's going through the capture card, it's not quite as clear. So in any case, we're going to dig into the Dunwich Horror. We're going to start with one of the first campaign scenarios. I'm actually going to read a little bit of the intro. But to start off with, the new character I've chosen and built a deck for is a fan favorite Arkham Horror character, Jenny Barnes, the Dilettante. Was a starting character, one of the original starting characters for Arkham Horror, and she's been in all pretty much. She is in absolutely every single Arkham game, I believe. I wouldn't be able to know for Eldritch Horror, but I'm pretty sure she's in there. Her general theme is that she's got some money. So she gains one additional resource during each upkeep phase during the game, so she'll get a little bit more to spend. And she's got decent health and sanity stats, and pretty much average overall stats across the board. So I'm looking forward to working with this character. So let's review quickly what the prologue says. I'm not going to read it out loud, but I'm going to go over just general story-wise, because that's essentially what we're going over, right? So it looks like we're being contacted by Dr. Henry Armitage of Miskatonic University. So very popular setting there. Also, if anybody hasn't read the Dunwich Horror, I believe this starts to hit the major story points there as well. He's the head librarian and a former mentor of ours. And he's contacted Jenny in the attempt to get their assistance. And he's looking, essentially, he's got two colleagues who've gone missing. Dr. Francis Morgan, professor of archaeology, and Warren Rice, professor of languages. Warren was supposed to meet him over supper earlier and discuss several important findings, but has since gone missing. He has a nagging suspicion that something's going on, something that has a familiar feeling. So he's basically asked you to locate both of them. And the one we've started off with here is we're going to be looking for Professor Warren Rice. Scenario 1A, I'm just going to go over the setup. Dr. Armitage is worried his colleague, Professor Warren Rice, might be in trouble, so he has asked for your help in finding his friend. He seems unreasonably nervous about his colleague's disappearance, considering Professor Rice has only been missing for a matter of hours. So let's take a look at the agenda. This is Quiet Halls. You have arrived at the Miskatonic University campus in search of Warren Rice. Classes are over, and there's a mysterious silence hangs in the air over the quad. So we've got 7 turns basically before this flips over, and we move the agenda forward. And now onto the act deck. After hours, Professor Rice was last seen several hours ago by one of Armitage's students in the humanities building. So get a little bit of a hint there. It's going to take us 3 clues spent on this act to move it forward. So right now we've got Jenny starting in the Miskatonic quad. I don't know if anybody could, so I'm going to move this over to close-up cam here. So the Miskatonic quad, there are no clue tokens here. It does come with an action. Basically, I can give up. We can't find Rice. If I decide to resign, we basically end the story there. Like, I don't know, I can't find him. So we don't want to do that. So Jenny's going to start in the quad, and she can basically move to any of these cards that I have laid out here. Yeah, they're all listed around here. So we've got the Orney Library, the Science Building, the Administration Building, the Students Unit, and the Humanities Building. And I really hope I called that library correctly. It's O-R-N-E. I'm assuming it's pronounced. So let's take a look at our starting hand. I'm going to draw 5 cards, and if we don't like it, we've got 1 mulligan, but otherwise we got to take it. I really like it when close-up cam, like the background vanishes, and it's just black, but I've had trouble overriding the auto. So first off, we have Jenny's signature card, her weapon that comes with her, Jenny's twin 45s. This one's neat that you get to pay however many assets you want, and that's how much ammo you get on it. So if you're kind of stuck on resources and you really need to get into a fight, or you think you're going to get into many fights, then you can, like you want to spend 6 ammo, then you're on it. You're going to get 6 ammo. The only thing is it does take up both hand slots for just an okay damage effect. So Jenny's twin 45s. We've also got Perception, so a card that can be committed to skill check gives us 2 lore. And if the test is successful, then I can draw a card. Delve Too Deep. Each investigator draws 1 card from the counter deck. Then add Delve Too Deep into the victory display. So this is basically just the ability to you take a little bit of extra spookiness in order to gain a few experience points. So it says Victory 1 there. That'll give you an extra experience point likely at the end of the scenario. So only something you want to do if you're nice and comfy. Lone Wolf, limit talent. When you begin your turn, if there are no other investigators at your location, gain 1 resource. Very good card to have, especially when you're playing solo. And lastly, we have Search for Izzy. Unfortunately, this is her treachery. Sorry, phone started ringing. Apologies for that. Unfortunately, this is our treachery card, Searching for Izzy. This is her weakness. She is searching for her sister. After attach Searching for Izzy to the location farthest from you, investigate. So use 2 actions and perform an investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard Searching for Izzy. When the game ends, if Searching for Izzy is in play, you suffer 1 mental trauma, which a mental trauma is awful. It is permanent brain damage. So we don't really want that. Unfortunately, let me just double check this. The first time that I have drawn a weakness in my opening hand, and I believe you were... opening hands. If a weakness card is drawn on your point, just set it aside, and instead of adding it to your hand, right? So, which is too bad, because I would like to have it already at the beginning, because it allows me to put it in a close location, because they're all 1 away. The next one is Hard Knocks. This is also a very good asset to have. I can spend resources without using actions to bump up my skills. Which is fantastic, especially with Jenny. She gains a lot of resources, especially you got Lone Wolf out. So I think overall this is a good starting hand. We're gonna keep this. Granted, I've never played this deck properly, other than a few tests, so I'm not entirely certain what it's going to look like. But I think this looks like a pretty good start. All right, so we'll shuffle this up, put Jenny's weakness back in there, and hopefully either see it early or not see it at all. And here we go. And now I'm going to give us the appropriately spooky music now that we're started here. Hopefully it won't be too loud. Or not play at all. All right. Spooky music not functioning. Working for that one next time, because it's only so much of my voice that people can take. All right, so Jenny's turn. We would normally go with the Mythos phase, but we skip it on the first turn, advancing the agenda. So we are on the search for the professor. So there's no clues to be gained from the location that I'm currently in. But let's prep a little bit. Let's go ahead and put Lone Wolf into play. So I'm just going to move my cards out of here, so we see what I've actually have equipped. So let's put Lone Wolf into play. You are going to move over here to the side. Lone Wolf into play. So first action, we've got Lone Wolf, which won't take effect until later, but I will get some extra resources out of that. And just in case I get into any funny stuff soon, I'm going to use Hard Knocks so I can take advantage of the resources I do have. So that's 2 actions, so just setting up. And I'm going to move from the Miskatonic Quad over to the Humanities Building, because this is where they indicated they saw the professor last. So let's take a look at what's going on in the Humanities Building. Wow. Humanities Building. So it's got a shroud value of 3. That means that I have to, if I do an investigation check, I have to succeed a check of 3. There are 2 clues on it. At the end of your turn, if you are in the Humanities Building, discard the top X card of your deck, where X is the amount of horror on you. The power is out, plunging the building's hall into heavy darkness. There is no sign of Professor Rice. And that was the best clue that we had out there. So let's put 2 clue tokens. On the Humanities Building. And now it is the end of the investigation phase. Those were my 3 actions. The 2 cards I put down, I paid for, and moving to the Humanities Building. We now would move to the enemy phase. There's no enemies on the board. Upkeep phase, anything that was exhausted would come back. I draw 1 card and gain 1 resource, but Jenny would gain 2. So we're about up to 4. And I draw a card, and that card is Overpower. Again, committed to skill test for a combat for might. And if I succeed, I get to draw a card. Not bad. And then my hand size is fine, so we move on to the Mythos phase. So now I will put 1 Doom token on the agenda. Remember, we need 7 to move it forward. And I will draw the top card of the Mythos deck, of the encounter deck, and see what we got. We got a Thrall. So this is an enemy that's going to engage Jenny immediately. Has 2 health, has 2 might to defeat, 2 might on the attack, and 2 swiftness to evade. Spawns at the location with most clues and has a retaliate action. So that's immediately going to come to the Humanities Building and is immediately going to be engaged with Jenny. So I just need to double check on the retaliate action. So if I fail a skill check in combating the Thrall, or sneaking around the thrall, it will attack immediately. All right. So as at the beginning of Jenny's turn, she gets an additional resource. I'm starting to wish I had paid for her guns now. Those would be super helpful because now it will take me 2 attacks to attempt to defeat the thrall. So Jenny has a might of 3, so it's against a 2. So I've got mostly minus. So the worst that can happen here is if I draw -2 or an automatic failure. So let's go with a fight against the thrall. And I'm going to save my overpower to later, but I am going to use Hard Knocks to boost my fight up to 4, just in case I do get a -2. And we are going to draw a +1. So we are successful. We do 1 damage to our thrall. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to use the resource as well to bump it up to a 4. And I got a -2, so it's a good thing I bumped it up to the 4. So the 2's enough. The thrall's dead. I'll go in the discard pile. There's no victory points worth for it. But I need to get me some clue tokens now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take an investigate action, which I'm forgetting, I believe is a lore check. Intellect. Skill tests. Yes, it's an intellect check. So that's actually kind of tough. So I am going to use perception on the skill check. So I'm going to go ahead and do the investigation. I'm going to use perception. I could use a new cards here. So perception doesn't cost me anything. It's included on the skill check. So that'll bump me up to a 5 against a shroud value of 3. And I've drawn a skull. -1 if you fail, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. Wow, this is like a mill scenario here we're looking at. But -1 isn't enough. I'm okay. I pass the skill check, and I take a 1 clue token. So that's the end of the investigator actions. There are no more enemies on the board. We are clear of enemies. So I draw 1 card. I get 2 resources. And I draw 1 card. And we're going to get quick thinking. If this skill test succeeds, so I get to add a random or whatever I want for skill check. If the skill test succeeds by 2 or more after it resolves, you may immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action does not count towards the number of actions you can take each turn. Nice. Taking extra actions is obviously very good. I've got an ally here who can help me out with that, but I haven't drawn into him yet. Hand size is fine. Let's move on to Mythos. We now have 2 on the agenda, and we draw the top card of the encounter deck, which is a Yithian Observer. When Yithian Observer attacks you, discard 1 card at random from your hand. If you cannot, Yithian Observer deals 1 damage and 1 horror for this attack. And there's only 1 person here, so it's going after Jenny right away and is now immediately engaged with me. I really don't want... It's not a hunter, so it's not going to move from the location. I really don't want to stand here and just wail on it, especially since I have no weapons. We're gonna have to try to sneak away here, I think. And it's the beginning of my turn, so I get another resource, which is good because I'm going to be using them to try to sneak away from this thing. So I'm going to use my first action to attempt to evade the Yithian Observer. It's a 3 difficulty. Jenny's got a 3 agility. I'm going to put 1 toward it from Hard Knocks, so to bump it up to 4, and then I'm going to use Quick Thinking to bump it up to 5, and hopefully 6, actually 2 from Hard Knocks to bump it up to 5, and then Quick Thinking to bump it up to 6, and if I can succeed by 2 or more, I can take an extra action. So it's 6 versus 3. Again, there's only -2 as the worst one in here, unless it's an automatic failure, which it is. Nasty. Why? Why are you being mean to me, automatic failure? So that means Quick Thinking is toast. I'm still engaged, and I'm down in action. All right, let's go with the overpower. Oh, fight it? No. I want to sneak by it. All right, 2 more resources from Hard Knocks. That gives me a 5. Got a +1, so it's a 6. Good, it's a success. I disengage with the Yithian Observer, and my next move is to move. Where can I move to another? Let's move straight to the library. Let's see what we got here. There's 1 clue token on it. You must spend 1 additional action to investigate the Orn Library. That sounds terrible. But if you do, you can add it to the display as 1 victory point. That doesn't sound too bad. Man, I really wish that I had that extra action, though. I would have and not used up all those resources on Hard Knocks, because I definitely would have put Jenny's twin 45s into play. All right, it's now upkeep. I'll get 2 resources and draw a card. Leo DeLuca, you may take an additional action during your turn. Excellent. Hopefully I will have enough resources to pay for that very shortly. I'm looking forward to that one. And now we move on to Mythos. And we draw a Whippoorwill. It's a hunter, so it will follow me around. Each investigator at Whippoorwill's location gets -1 of all their stats. Sweet. And what does aloof mean? Interesting. So it means it won't engage with me, so it's just there, making life difficult for everybody. I can kill it if I want to, but in order to do that, I'd have to engage with it, which honestly I don't really want to do. So at the start of my turn, I will gain a resource, not enough to put Leo DeLuca into play. But let me start using my actions. Let me start using my actions. So the Whippoorwill's there. It's going to make it more difficult to. So it's a shroud value of 2. You know what? Let's move out of there. The Whippoorwill's just going to stay there. I have a lore value of 2 right now. The shroud value is 3. I don't have anything I can put towards this skill check. I really don't want to engage it. Well, it's only got 1 health. You know what? Let's engage it. So let's use an action. We'll engage the enemy. We will fight it, and then to combat that, we're going to use overpower so I can draw more cards out. So that'll bring me up to 4. I only needed 2 to succeed. So again, without unless I completely and utterly, unless I hit one of my, so just a -1. So I've still succeeded. I do 1 damage to the whippoorwill, and that kills it. And I draw a card for having used overpower, and I get a machete, which I can use to fight with. Probably less expensive than it uses no ammo, and it's slightly less expensive than Jenny's Twin 45s to get a significant amount of ammo for. So hopefully I can use that to my advantage later. Did not help me with this potential lore check though, but let me go ahead and make it a raw one. I've got 0s and +1s in here as well, so. So we're doing an investigate. Oh no, it takes an additional action, and now I don't have it. Awesome. So let's go ahead and pay for the machete. So at least I got something to attack with next turn. If something comes after me, and it'll do a little bit of extra damage. All right. Now we gain a resource, 2 resources, and a card. We've gained Arcane Studies. So basically, this is the other stat boosting. So this will boost the other stats. It's the opposite version of Hard Knocks. Sounds fine by me. I would have liked that to have that for the Orton Library. So very nice. And now we move on to Mythos. Oops. Another Doom token. Beyond the Veil, a Hex, Surge. Revelation, put Beyond the Veil into play in your threat area if there is no copy of Beyond the Veil in your threat area. Forced, if your deck has no cards in it, take 10 damage and discard Beyond the Veil. So here's that milling mechanic has certainly come to play now. We noticed a lot of that, so there's a good reason for that. Surge, I believe, means that I will have to draw another card from the deck. Yeah, so I have to draw another encounter card, and I get a Wizard of Yog-Sothoth. He is a humanoid hunter. He will follow me around. Forced when engaged. When the engaged investigator draws a hex or pack card, the Wizard of Yog-Sothoth it attacks that investigator. Now, luckily, I got the hex before. The hex before engaging the wizard engaged me, so that doesn't happen. But now I've got a wizard who will follow me around, and luckily I now have a machete, so I can potentially hack at him. And now we start my turn. I'm spending a lot of time fighting stuff, though. It's really thinking it would be easier to find a single professor out there, right? All right, so my turn. I'm currently engaged with the wizard, so I either have to fight or evade. He will follow me, so I might as well go ahead and start hacking at him. I'm going to be using the machete for the fight, so that'll give me a +1. It gives me a 4 that matches his number. We'll spend a resource for Hard Knocks to get a 5. And I drew an Elder Sign, which actually bumps that up to a 9 because of the 4 resources I currently have, which is definitely a success. Which, due to the machete, will do 2 damage to the wizard, and I still need to attack him again in order to kill him. So I will go ahead and do that again with the machete, and 1 more Hard Knock, giving me a total of 5 again. And I got a +1. So the wizard is toast. And he goes into my victory display because he has a victory point on him. And unfortunately, again, I have used 2 actions. So I cannot investigate the library. However, I will use Arcane Studies. So for 2 resources, put Arcane Studies in play. So now I can bump up my lore and will as well, my intellect and will. So that does it for my actions. I will gain 2 resources for Jenny's ability and draw another machete, which I don't really need at the moment. So I'll probably use that to bump up a fight check at some point. Oh, Doom's quickly approaching, and I've only got one clue token going. Our encounter is pushed into the beyond. Hex. On Revelation, choose and shuffle a non-story asset you control into your deck and discard the top 3 cards of your deck. If a copy of that asset is discarded, take 2 horror. Well, Machete will go into my deck. I know for a fact that the other one is missing, but this could be nasty. Alright, so we are discarding. That's curious. I'm discarding it, so I guess I don't have to put it in. Elusive. Oh, that would have been useful. And another copy of Hard Knocks, so at least I don't take horror. I'm curious as to what happens when I attempt to discard a treachery card, though. It's not specifically indicated. Revelation. Let me try Revelation. No, it will. It does take effect. The revolution. So let's go back to, we saw it earlier, but it has the revelation effect includes it going into the discard pile, so it happens before it actually hits it. Which means I now have to put searching for Izzy into play somewhere. So I'm going to put her on the furthest away. So it's got to be at least 2. I'll put her down there in the science building. Unfortunately, again, I want to get rid of it because that effect is not good. So I get my resource for the start. Let me move over to the Miskatonic Quad and then move over to the science building and do the reveal there. After the science building is revealed, put the set-aside alchemy lab into play. So there is the alchemy lab. The door itself is locked. When you fail a will test in the science building, take 1 damage. So hopefully I won't have to do that very much. There's 1 clue token here, and it's got a shroud value of 2, so that's easier to pick up. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that investigate action. And then hopefully on the next turn I'll be able to get rid of searching for Izzy. So we'll go ahead and use a resource to bump up my lore to 4. Or intellect, sorry. It's called lore. The same symbol is called lore in other games. So. And I have a 0, so I go ahead and succeed, and I pick up this extra clue token. And that's the end of it. The moving across the map that really affected that. So 2 resources for Jenny's ability, and we draw a card. It is Fine Clothes. Reduce the difficulty of skill tests you perform during the parley actions by 2 So I'll have to hold on to that just in case we get a parlay action with one of the non-player characters that might join the game later. Otherwise, it can be discarded for an agility test. All right. This is going to be the last turn before the agenda flips, so hopefully nothing too bad will happen. Beyond the Veil, Surge, put Beyond the Veil in play. I've already got one, so I don't have to worry about that, but I do draw another card, which is Visions of the Futures Past. Hey, remember when I said that hopefully I won't have to do a will check in the science building? Well, I have to do a will check in the science building. Revelation, test will, 5. For each point you fail by, discard the top deck card of your deck. Again, more of this milling stuff going on. Currently, my will is at 3. I can spend 2 resources, which I will do to bump it up to 5, using Arcane Studies. And I will draw a -1. So I only have to discard the top card of my deck, which is a knife, so not bad. All right. Well, so now it is the beginning of my turn. I gain a resource for Lone Wolf. Oh, man. It's tempting to leave Izzy there. There's no way for me to get a clue. So the agenda is going to flip before I have a chance. Hi, I'm Smitty. Welcome to the channel. There's no real way for me to get another clue before that agenda flips over, so I should just prepare myself. So I'm going to spend 2 actions to grab some resources. And I'm going to then use those resources to put my good friend Leo DeLuca into play, which will give me a... so just zoom that in here. You may take an additional action during your turn, and I can also use them as a meat shield if I'm getting beat up, but that additional action is certainly extremely helpful. So I do have 1 action left. And no resources, unfortunately. But I still want to deal with searching for Izzy as fast as possible, so I'm going to use my last action to draw a card, which is another Leo DeLuca, which I will basically have to use as a skill check bump. Alright, so that is the end of my turn. I will take 2 resources for Jenny's ability and draw Unexpected Courage. Fantastic. Allows me to put whatever I want toward a skill check. And now we move on to Mythos. So we'll clear out the Quiet Halls because it's going to flip. And let's see what we got. The university is dead silent. The shadows coil about your feet as you walk, and you swear there is something following you with each step you take. Is it just your imagination, or is there really someone or something stalking you? Each investigator with 5 or more cards in his or her discard pile takes 1 horror. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each investigator with 10 or more cards in his or her discard pile takes 2 horror. When the players have completed, the house always wins. Advance directly if... no, so I don't have to worry about that. So I advance to 2A. Alright, so I take 1 horror. Not a bad thing right now. I haven't taken any so far, so we've only got 1 brain on there. And we move on to Dead of Night. Professor Rice's disappearance isn't the only thing amiss at the university. You're unsure exactly what's going on, but you're starting to believe Armitage was right in asking for your help. Each investigator's maximum hand size is reduced by 3 while checking his or her hand size during the upkeep phase. So that brings it down to 5. So I will need to discard on the next turn, which means that it will end up in my discard pile, which we have obviously found out so far is bad. And that only has 3 Doom tokens needed to advance the agenda, and I still haven't drawn my encounter card, which is the Light of Forgamon. You must attach Light of a Forgamon to either the current agenda or the current act. Limit 1 per agenda/act. Treat all damage as direct damage and all horror as direct horror, which means I won't be able to deflect it onto something else. Considering I'm very close to getting rid of the act, let's attach the light to the act instead of the agenda. And it's the start of my turn, so I will take a resource for Lone Wolf. And now I have 4 actions to take, thanks to Leo. So let's head over to the Student Union. Student Union. 1 action, and then 2. We'll flip over the Student Union. After Student Union is revealed, put the set-aside dormitories into play. So look at this. Oh, and I forgot to clear Lizzie off. Done. 2 clue tokens. And it's only got a shroud value of 1. So we're going to put the dormitories here. It's got a recommended setup in a lot of cases, but they don't tell you where everything's going to end up later. And I can also use 2 actions to heal damage and 1 horror. That's pretty nice, but I'm definitely going to go ahead and do a investigation here. So it's a shroud value of 1. So am I going to even bump it up? I got to lower my hand size here, so I'm going to discard the other copy of Leo DeLuca to bump that up to 4. Just in case. It's not going to really make a difference, but I need to lower that. So it's a -1, so it's a 3. It's a success. I now have 3 clue tokens, so I will go ahead and use those, because that doesn't need to, in this case, does not need to be an action, to advance the act. Goodbye, Light of whatever, however you're pronounced. All right, let's flip this over, see what we got. You were unable to find Professor Rice, but one of the students you spoke with mentioned a strange man entering Rice's office. Unfortunately, the door leading to the faculty offices is locked at this late hour. The student says the head janitor, Jazz, might be able to let you in if you could find him. Shuffle the encounter discard pile and the set of Jazz set aside Jazz Mulligan into the encounter deck. So everything that I just managed to avoid is going back into the encounter deck. And Rice's whereabouts. Concerned for Professor Rice's safety, you seek out the head janitor who can let you into the locked sections of the campus. Spend 1 clue and discard the top 5 cards of the encounter deck. Top 10 if there's is a 1-player game. Forced, if you discard Jazz Mulligan for any reason, resolve his revelation effect. Objective, when you take control of Jazz Mulligan, advance. All right, well, that solves that curious question. So let's grab Jazz Mulligan, who I will reveal when we properly draw him, and the entire encounter deck. So that's going to cost an action. So I'm going to grab the clue token from the Student Union on the next turn. Again, I really should deal with searching for Lizzie before that. Well, maybe hopefully I can get in the lab with the dormitories, and on the way by I'll deal with it. All right, so that should be sufficiently shuffled. All right, I got 1 more action. I'm going to go ahead and use a resource on Arcane Studies to bump my intellect up to 4 and use the last action to do an investigation in the student union. And it is a skull. It's a -1. And if I fail, discard the top 3 cards of my deck. But I don't fail, I succeed. And I grab this blue token. And that is the end of my turn. So I get 2 resources for Jenny Barnes' ability. And we draw a card, which is the machete that I had before. But I'm going to go ahead and discard that, considering I already have one in my hands. And my maximum hand size is now down to 5. So move on to the Mythos phase. Doom token on the agenda, and we turn over Arcane Barrier, Hex Obstacle. Revelation attached to your location. As an additional cost to move into or out of the attached location, test Will 4. Successful, discard Arcane Barrier. Otherwise, you must cancel the effects of the move or discard the top 5 cards of your deck. I'm really liking how unique the discard effects here are compared to the original campaign where it was fairly straight ahead. This seems to have a kind of a theme mechanic to it, which I actually quite like. I'm going to shove these over just slightly, give a little bit of extra room here. All right. So before I move on, beginning of my turn, I get an extra resource for being a lone wolf. So first action, I'm going to discard one of my clue token, and we are going to drop the top 10 cards of the encounter deck into the discard. So Terror from Beyond, Locked Door, Beyond the Veil, Light of whatever, Jazz Mulligan. Do I keep discarding? All right. Revelation effect on Jazz Mulligan. Put Jazz Mulligan into play at your location. While Jazz Mulligan is not controlled by an investigator, he gains Parlay. Test Intellect 3. If successful, take control of Jazz Mulligan. While you control Jazz Mulligan, you ignore the text on each unrevealed Miskatonic location, which means that the doors are no longer locked. So he's at the location. Do I continue to? Yeah, I guess I do. So that was the top 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All gone. All right. So let's go ahead and use my next action, my second action, to equip Fine Clothes, which will reduce the difficulty test of the Parlay action with Jazz Mulligan down to a 1. And I currently have an intellect of 3, so unless so we've drawn a 0, that's a pass. I now could take control of Jazz Mulligan. Starting to get a little bit cramped here, so I'm just going to put Hard Knocks and Arcane Studies on top of each other. And my Fine Clothes can take some damage too. That's kind of interesting. Especially the mental damage. I guess maybe feeling dressed up nicely and feeling really good about yourself helps. So we have found Jazz. So let's take a look here. You convince Jazz that something strange is going on and that Professor Rice may be in danger. He doesn't trust you enough to hand the keys, but agrees to come with you. All of a sudden, you hear a crash coming from the science building, and a student rushes toward you. Help, he cries. There's some kind of animal loose in the chem labs. I only barely got a glimpse of it, but he shudders. I think it's heading to the dorms. You've got to do something. If the Alchemy Labs location is not in play, put it into play. If you are at Agenda 1 or 2, spawn the set-aside experiment in the Alchemy Labs. The experiment. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the rest of that. So this is the experiment. It is a fight value of 4, sneak value of 2, damage health of 7. Monster Abomination Elite. It is massive. The experiment gets plus 3 health plus 3 health per investigator, so it's a total of 10. When the enemy phase begins, ready the experiment. Objective: if the experiment is defeated, advance to 3B. So that's a victory condition there. But I actually have to go to the alchemy labs in order for that to happen. You have only moments to react. You could warn the students in the dormitories and escort them to safety, or continue the task of searching for faculty offices Professor Rice. Or perhaps you should try to slay the beast that threatens the campus. Find and complete an objective on another encounter card. So we got to determine exactly what it is we're going to want to do here. So my parlay was my third action. And considering, oh man. And we still have Izzy sitting there. And I have no idea what's on the other side of that agenda. But I really need to deal with her, because if this keeps going and I have 1 permanent brain damage for the entire game, I'm really going to go nuts. Let's go ahead and start moving back towards the science building. Push comes to shove. Oh man, 7 damage, 10. The maximum amount of damage I can do is 2 per damage. I'd have to get 5 consecutive combats. And I could use some meat shields. I mean, that is possible. Well, let's see what happens. All right. 2 resources for Jenny's ability. High-end Decision 101. That sounds like the name of a lot of the decisions that I had to make here. And draw a card, which will be Quick Thinking again. So adding an additional action, that'll push me up to 5. That'd be pretty neat if I can get that to go, especially if I go and go ahead here and search for. Actually, that's probably what I'll do. Is when I do the investigation to get rid of searching for Lizzie, I will use Quick Thinking and see if I can get an additional action out of it. But right now we're moving on to Mythos. Second Doom token on Dead of Night. And we draw Beyond the Veil, which we already have, so I don't have to worry about it. That goes into the discard pile. But I have to draw another one, which is Visions of Future Past. Once again, Revelation, test Will 5. For each point you fail, discard the top card of your deck. Let's go ahead and drop a couple of resources to bump my will up to 5. I'm worried about wasting Quick Thinking here. Let's go ahead and use Quick Thinking too. It's up to 6. And we draw the cultist symbol. -1, -3 instead, if there are 10 or more cards in your discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, thank goodness. All right. So it's a -1 on a 6. That's a 5. Oh, why did I do that? Why did I use Quick Thinking? Wow. All right. I'll mulligan that and take it back. But I will. That means having to drop 1 card instead of none. We'll drop Perception. Shh, don't tell anybody. I really didn't map that out right. Like, there was no way of using Quick Thinking. It wouldn't have given me more than enough to get through. Welcome to the channel, Von Cog. Almost at the end here. Hope, fingers crossed, is what I'm hoping for. All right, so Back to the investigator phase. So, 4 actions to take. First, I'm going to move back into the science building. And I'm going to go ahead and use 2 actions to deal with searching for Lizzie. So I will do an investigate action, and this time, oh right, sorry, 1 resource for my lone wolf. This time I will use quick thinking. So that'll give me a total of 4 against a shroud value of 2. Just for insurance purposes, I'm going to use arcane studies to bump that up to 5. Actually, twice to 6. Remember, I want to get that win by 2 thing, so I can get my action back. And my result is an automatic failure. Wow. This thing really knows when to screw me right at the right moment. Well, with 1 action left, I'm really going to need to wait to get my resources so that I can put enough ammo on this machete if I decide to move into the labs. What does massive mean? Massive. Oh, an enemy. Whoa. So it's engaged with all investigators, so it basically takes up the entire room. Everybody's engaged with it regardless of whether they actually are or not. Huh. I'm just wondering what I should do with my last action here. Let's grab a resource then with the last action, and then move on to my upkeep phase. So 2 resources for Jenny, and I draw a card, which is an emergency cache, which gives me 3 extra resources, which is pretty good. Although I will take an action to get, but I could bump up some of my skill checks a little bit. And my hand limit's fine. We move on to the Mythos phase, which means we now flip over Dead of Night. The cry of fear echoes to the campus, and several students flee from the eastern side of the university where the science building can be found. Could this commotion be linked to Professor Rice's disappearance? Oh, crap. If the experiment is in play, move it 1 location toward the dormitories. Well, it's currently in play. And it has moved into the science building. It is now taking over the entire location. So the beast unleashed. Some kind of wild creature is on the loose. Whatever it is, it appears to be headed toward the university dormitories. When this agenda would advance by reaching its doom threshold, instead remove all doom in play and move the experiment 1 location toward the dormitories. Objective: if the experiment enters the dormitories, advance. So basically, I have 6 turns in order to finish this off before the thing gets to the dormitories and kills all of the students. So the experiment is now in my location. And I also draw a thrall, which spawns in the location with the most clues, which is either the humanities building or the library. which will go into the library. And luckily it doesn't move, so we're good there. We move on to the investigator phase. I get 1 resource for Lone Wolf. And now try to figure out what it is we're going to do here. Well, the obvious thing would be to dodge the experiment. Can I? Massive keyword attacks from the enemy phase result in attack against the investigator. Now, so I should be able to disengage. So if I disengage from the enemy, I deal with Lizzie and hopefully succeed this time, and then move to the alchemy labs. I should be able to start working toward finishing this without having to go toe-to-toe with the experiment. That's the hope, anyway. So let's go ahead and work at dodging. So we're going to do an evade check to disengage from the experiment, which is taking up the entire room. It has an evade check of 3. I have an agility of 2, and I have an agility of 3. I'm going to save unexpected courage. And I'm going to use the hard knocks to bump up my agility to 4. Now let's see if I can succeed. +1. All right, so we successfully disengaged from the experiment, so allowing me to do some stuff in the room now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to investigate, to use 2 of my actions, so I will now have 1 left, and do an investigation to get rid of, to try to get rid of the searching for Lizzie. So I'm going to discard unexpected courage to give me 2 extra. Intellect, which is a 5. The shroud value of the location is 2, but I've blown it before, so 0. Not blown this time. So, searching for Lizzie has been discarded. And I no longer have to worry about potentially getting large amounts of mental trauma moving on to the next, when we move on to the next part of the story. And with my last action, I will move over to the alchemy labs. And let's take a look at what happens here. The alchemy labs. Investigate. If you are successful, instead of discovering tombs, take the alchemical concoction from underneath this location, if able. Did I use the right alchemy labs? Because it told me to get rid of it, didn't it? Let me double check here. Because the alchemical concoction will do significant amounts of damage to the experiment. So if that is the case, no. So there was absolutely no reason to go to this lab. None whatsoever. So now I have to basically run to the dormitories, I suspect, because I massively screwed that up. All right, let's move to the end. I get 2 resources for Jenny's ability, and 1 card, which is elusive. Play during your turn, disengage if an enemy engaged with you, and move to a revealed location with no enemies. Great. So I can move into the next room, play this, and then immediately move to the Miskatonic Quad without having to use an action. And I guess I'll head to the dormitories and see what happens there. I know there's the administration building that I haven't explored yet, and there's an additional room associated to it, but right now we're down to a timer. So I've got elusive. I'm still under the hand limit, so I don't need to discard. Let's go ahead and hit the Mythos phase, and hopefully I won't land on a creature that's really going to stop me from going forward. Oh, this thing again. Visions of Future Past. Once again, test 5 will. For each point you fail by, discard the top card of your deck. Let's go ahead. I've got 3. Let's go ahead. I've got plenty of resources here, so let's go ahead and use 3 to bring me up to 6. And I passed with a 0, so no cards get discarded for once. Thank goodness. So nothing gets in my way. We start my investigation phase. I get 1 resource for Lone Wolf. We'll immediately move to the Science Building, which engages me with the experiment. I'm going to use 2 resources to use Elusive, to disengage and move right away to Miskatonic Quad. So I still have 3 actions left. I will use my second action to move to the Student Union, and then my third action to move to the dormitories. Okay, the dormitories. Objective: if the investigators in the dormitories spend 3 clues per investigator as a group, then we end and move to and resolve the story. So there are 3 clues on the dormitories. And I have 1 turn left, so I'm going to go ahead and investigate. The shroud value is 1. So I'm just going to use 1 resource to bump my intellect up to 4. And we've drawn a skull, which is a -1, and if I fail, discard the top 3 cards of my deck. Luckily, I did not fail, so I grab a clue token, and then we move, so that's the end of my activation. I'll get 2 resources at the end of my turn, and I draw a card, which is another Find Close, which I already have, so I'll probably, well, I won't even need that. Probably not going to evade anything anytime soon. And now on to Mythos. So we've advanced the Mythos, so that means that the experiment will now move into the Miskatonic Quad, and hopefully all of those students with acoustic guitars have gotten the hell out of there. And we will turn over a Yithian Observer. Another one. If he attacks, I discard 1 card at random from my hand. So he's going to be in the dormitories with me, and I won't be able to investigate while he's currently engaged with me. So I have to disengage before I do anything. Luckily, though, I should be able to disengage from the Yithian Observer by evading. I can use Find Close. I can drop Jenny's twin 45s and bump my my evasion up. Disengage from them. Do 2 quick investigations because they're easy to do. I'll gain my 3 clue tokens and we'll be done. as fun as it would be to actually kill the experiment, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So, beginning of my turn, I gain a resource from Lone Wolf. I will start by evading the Yetian Observer. It's got an evade value of 3. My current agility is 3, so I will drop the Fine Clothes to bump it up to 4, and I will use 2 resources on Hard Knocks to bump it up to 6. And let's see if I can get lucky. At a 0, I am. So I've disengaged from the Yetian Observer. Goes back onto the dormitories. I'm now going to do an investigation. I'm going to drop 1 resource on Arcane Studies to get a 4. So this is my second action. Is a 0. I succeed. I gain another clue token. And the next one, again, another resource for Arcane Studies. -2. So that's a 4 minus 2, 2. It's above the shroud value of 1. I now have 3 clue tokens. And I have moved on to the resolution. That's R3. So I'm spending these 3 clue tokens, and I'm finishing off the dormitories. Let's see what the story reveals to us. Resolution 2. You pull each of the dormitory's fire alarms and usher the students out of the building's north exit, hoping to make your way off campus. Many of the students are confused and exhausted, but you believe an attempt to explain the situation will do more harm than good. Minutes later, a terrible shriek echoes across campus, piercing and shrill. You tell the students to wait and head back to the dormitories to investigate. Oddly, you find no trace of the strange creature, a prospect that worries you more than it relieves you. You hurry to the faculty offices to find Professor Rice, but there is no sign of him anywhere. So I will note in my campaign log that Professor Warren Rice was kidnapped. I will record that these students were rescued. I finished the dormitories off, so that'll go into the victory display. And sadly, nothing else will, so that's the only 2 things that go. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory values of each card in the victory display. If this is the first scenario of the campaign, proceed to scenario 1B, the house always wins. So I have to move on. So next time when we play, we will move on to the second scenario, which is searching for the other missing doctor. Unfortunately, not too much in the way of experience points being gained from there, considering I did a lot of running away. I'm curious as to what would have happened though if I had looked into the administration building and the faculty offices, but I will leave that as a surprise in case I decide to rerun the campaign later. So yeah, nice success. Really liking Jenny's overall build. Kind of weird on the not getting into combat as much, but that may have been due to some of the cards that I picked up. No, that's pretty similar. Maybe it's just I maybe should have looked into that a couple of times. Spending the 2 turns to get rid of the observers that are sitting there. Those would have made for a few extra victory points. I doubt I would have been able to go toe-to-toe with the experiment without that card that was removed from the game based off of what was going on. So anyway, a lot of fun so far for the Dunwich. I like the new mechanics that they've thrown in there. So next stream will be Saturday night. It's game night in Canada again. It's pandemic night, so we will have Cummy and Antonio back for that. And new reviews should be up this week. Trying to pace them out a little bit more since haven't had very much new coming out, so this will be a not so new one. And as usual, all my content's up on www.theboardgamer.com. So have a nice night. Hope you enjoyed, and see you soon.